Today we are going to learn something that is very close to us. Very close to us. Sometimes when things are very close, we don't see them. Right? When things are very close, we don't see them. There's a poem written by a Chinese nun explaining her enlightenment experience in Zen literature. She said that suddenly I noticed the tip of the nose. Suddenly I noticed the tip of the nose, and then that helped me to realize what is really going on in our life. And because sometimes our reality can be so close to us, they are so close that we don't see it, right? So today we are also going to learn about something very close that can be very useful, but most of us don't really use it. So that is the breath, right? That is the breath. And it's not only something that is really close to us, but I think close not in the sense of like intimate and being with us, but at the same time, breath is also a close, like a true friend. Because in our life we have a lot of friends, right? Some friends are like function friends. We only meet in the functions and we only friendly in the functions, right? So we depart and we don't really take care of each other, right? We are only friends during functions. And then we also have friends who will be with us when we are really doing well, when things are really going well. They like to come to our parties and celebrations, right? But when we really have a really bad time, when we need some help, when we want to ask something, and many of those friends are disappeared, right? But there can be friends who actually be with us, no matter what happened, always. So breath is like a real close friend that will never leave you, right? If the breath leaves you, there's no you, right? So breath will be there until the last moment. And so it's really a close in the sense that it's happening inside our body, but at the same time, it is something that we can truly rely on. It's never going to disappear. And if you learn how to use the breath for our healing, for our insight, and that's going to be wonderful, because that is going to be there. So we kind of have something to rely on, something to go back. And in fact, actually, there's a statement of the Buddha. I'm going to read that for you. Buddha has given this teaching in the sutta called Deepa Sutta. The Deepa means the lamp. In that lamp sutta, Buddha is telling us about his own experience. Even before he became the Buddha, when he was a bodhisattva, while he was really practicing, he was searching and seeking. And he said that how he used his breath even before he attained enlightenment. And this is what he said. I too, monks, before my awakening, when I was an unawakened bodhisattva, I frequently remained in this abiding of the awareness of the breath. He used the word abiding, means like you really become familiar with it and you really live in that awareness of the breath. When I frequently remain with the awareness of the breath, neither my body was fatigued, nor were my eyes. And my mind, through lack of clinging, was released from fermentations. Not completely released, but at least he experienced some release states during that time. So what Buddha is saying that when he was paying attention to the breath and living in that awareness of the breath, he was able to relax his body. His body did not get fatigued. And he's also talking about eyes. Our eyes can be a good indicator of our overall physical condition, right? The Buddha said that my eyes also did not get fatigued or tired. And also his mind was also, because of the awareness of the breath, breath itself has a quality, it's a neutral quality. The breath has a neutral quality. Whenever we pay attention to the breath, our mind can take the nature of that object. That is what happened to us, right? Whenever we meditate or even we don't meditate, whenever we bring a certain topic, certain theme, certain focus to our mind, based on that topic, our mind will get that mood. If we talk about a sad thing, and our mind will become sad, right? If you think about a negative, violent thing, and your mind also will turn like that. If you focus on a wholesome, loving kindness thing, and our mind will become like that. So based on what topic we focus our mind on, our nature of our mind will be following that, the nature of the object. That is why in meditation we purposely choose positive objects or neutral objects. And particularly when you pay attention to your breath, and breath has this special capacity of neutrality. Of course, in the beginning at least, when you pay attention to breath, there's nothing there to cling to, but there's also nothing you can resist or angry about. It's a very important, precious process, but it's neutral when you pay attention to that. But of course, later, when you keep on meditating, you will experience more relaxation, more pleasantness of the breath. But at least in the beginning, it helps us to bring our mind to a neutral position. Right? So in that way, breath can really help us to, do a lot of changes to our body and mind. So it is right within us to do that. So breath has many other many other special characteristics too. Because in our body there are so many autonomic systems, the functions, autonomic functions, that the things that are automatically functioning that we can't consciously control. And breath is also something that we don't have to think about, right? We have a special part of our brain in the brain stem that takes care of it. So even when you are sleeping, you continue to breathe. So that is why you can wake up in the morning. Otherwise, yeah. And there are many other autonomic systems in the body. Can you remember a few of them? What are the other autonomic systems in the body? Yeah, that's the breathing, yes. Any other? Heartbeat, yes. Anything else? Digestion, yes. Yeah, I'm talking about, like automatic functions happening in the body. Digesting? Yes. How about digestion? Yeah, no, your digestion is already at work, you don't have to control. You already have to put things into your mouth and just stay a few hours, right? And even right now, whatever you have eaten a few hours ago is already, digestion is function. You can't really control it. Or maybe wait for a moment. You can't do it. It's automatically happening. Our, winking of our eyes, right? And the breathing is also the same. But breathing is the only autonomic function that if you want, we can control, we can change. It's happening automatically, but if you want, we can change it. Like, we can't change our digestion speed. If that is happening, I would like to really slow it down and only have to eat one time a day. So, but we can't, even we can't directly change our heartbeat. But we can't, if you want, we can change the breath. That's wonderful. It's an autonomic function, but if you want, we can change it. So that's a special, quality to that. And whenever we also bring our, not only that, actually, breath is also very closely connected with our physical and mental conditions. very closely related. And by watching your breath, by observing your breath, you can tell what is your physical condition. Is your body tired, fatigued, or your body is like energetic? By looking at the breath, you can tell. You begin to observe that if you more observe your breath. When you are tired, your breath is different. When you are like energetic, your breath is different. When you are fatigued, your breath is different. So breath is like an indicator to really, you may not understand that, you may not realize that you are tired. But if you look at the breath, if you feel the breath, you will be able to tell that. Actually, though I'm not feeling really fatigued or tired, but through the breath, we can tell. If the breath is heavy, it's a good indication that your body is tired and fatigued. So it's a good indicator, but not only to the body, but also to our mind also. The breath also closely related with our mind, our emotions. Therefore, by observing the breath, you can also tell how your mind is. And your breath can tell whether you are anxious or whether you are peaceful. If you are anxious, your breath is short. If you are relaxed, your breath is little lengthy. And you can also tell whether you are bored or excited. If you are bored, of course, yawning and many other ways the breath can tell us. And excited, breath is also a little sharper and faster than normal. So breath can also tell us whether we are bored or excited. But the breath can also tell us whether we are stressed or not also. So in a way, actually, we can use our breath as like a thermometer. Like, what is my temperature? Right? And what is the state of my body and mind? If you really cannot take a good sense, look at your breath. It's a good indicator. So in that way, breath can really help us in many ways to like really come close to our understanding of our own body. You start to listen to our body. And when you really listen to your body, that can really help you to navigate your body. Then you understand, now really I need a rest. Now really I need a good glass of water and have a good nap, whatever. So the more we be aware of the breath, more can we listen to our body. And our body can really tell us what we really need. Because we don't really listen to body too much, body is like giving us so many signals, so many messages. I need water, I need rest, I need this, I need that. We are so busy, paying attention to so many other things. There may be issues in the office, other things we have to handle. Maybe sometimes too much excited with outside environment. So many things to watch. So many, WhatsApp messages to read. And so many, videos to, watch in the Facebook. We have got time to listen to body, right? But our body is telling us all the time. But when we don't listen to it, then body has to tell you in a very strong language that you cannot avoid. That is when it really get sick, and you can understand that I am also having some sore throat. This can be due to the fact that I didn't listen to my body well, but I think I at least listen when it give me a good, like a strong signal. Then I used to, get precautions. And when you listen to your body, you can sense the early indicators of sickness even. Before you get a flu, before you get a cough, you will sense a very early irritation in your body. Before that germ or virus or anything, bacteria, whatever, it gets really strong. If you can detect that early, you only need few things like salt water to gargle your throat. Some good dose of vitamin C, few oranges or guava, and then it's gone. But if you don't listen to that body when it's giving like early signals, you are busy with other things, and then it can develop to the next stage. I think in my case, maybe I only catch it in the second stage. So I was able to get rid of the flu, but then of course, I was left with a sore throat. And then if sometimes even we don't get the strong signal, and then really, body has nothing else to do. It will then go into the real condition. Then we have to handle it with so much of time and effort. So like paying attention to breath has that much of benefits. It really can help us to understand how body is feeling and how our mind is doing. It's a good indicator. There's an interesting story about how this awareness of the breath and the body can really help us. This is not really a real story, but that the story is meant to give us a message. Okay, and this story is not about human beings, but about frogs. Frogs. There was a colony of frogs living in a swamp, and near that swamp there was a tall tower. These frogs used to pass that tower quite often, and everyone looking at this tower is so tall. And some used to say that how good if we can really climb this tower. We'll be able to see the whole area. But they say that when we are frogs, we can really climb that too tall. But there was few people actually really curious to know that can we really climb that? Best way to get people to do something that otherwise they will not do is to make it a competition. then people will do it. And the frogs are not different. So actually some of them plan that why not we organize a competition. Then we can get people to do this, or not people, the frogs to do it. And then, so they organized a competition. So there was a big gathering and competition to climb the tower. Okay, so to their surprise, actually there were a number of contestants came forward to try this. But in the crowd, nobody really believed that anyone can really do it. This is for fun. Nobody can really climb that tall tower. So everybody gathered, and then everybody excited to see how these frogs are climbing, and the contest started. Everybody was around that, and then this contestant started to climb. But all the crowds start to say that, oh, no way, nobody is going to climb this. This is too tall for a frog, and no way, nobody is going to do it. No way. And so they start to instead of actually cheering, what they were telling is that, this is not going to happen. I'm sure those, frogs will stop, all on the way. I'm not even sure whether they will reach the half of the tower. So that's what they were telling. And of course, after a while, actually, the one frog suddenly stopped, even before reaching the half. And then the crowd, was really happy. Yes, I told you, they really, no one can do it, So one already stopped, and of course other ones also will slowly stop. And no one is going to do this. And so the others keep climbing, and of course some only took past the half and they also stopped. And then the crowds, the noise was so loud now. They said, no way, I told you, everyone is going to come back, this is not something a frog can do. And so, of course, one by one, stopped, right in the middle. So everybody's belief was confirmed. But there was one tiny frog, actually, who was very slow, but kept climbing. All other heavy ones are already down. And then the crowd said that, all these big ones already came down. This tiny one is not going to make it, sure, See, the next moment he will stop. And they were waiting for this tiny one to stop and come down. But the tiny one kept climbing, very slowly climbing. And then after a while, everybody stopped shouting because this tiny ones kept climbing. And everybody was speechless. After a while, actually, the tiny ones were really able to reach the top. Everyone was amazed. They didn't believe that this will be something possible. And everyone was really amazed and really wanted to know how this tiny one did this. This was impossible, not within the capacity of a frog. And they really wanted him to come down and ask, how did he really do it? So they waited and waited. When he come down, everybody surrounded him and kept asking, tell us, what are the techniques did you use? Did you eat something, anything to like energize you, whatever? And when these people, again I say people, when these frogs, not people, when these frogs were asking these questions, and this tiny frog was only kept looking at them, not answering, not saying even a word. Because it turned out to be that this tiny frog who reached the top was blind, was deaf. This tiny frog was deaf. He didn't hear anything this crowd was telling. All the other frogs were influenced by this attitude around this WhatsApp, because everybody saying that nobody is going to make this, it's not something possible for a frog. And they were all influenced by this noise of the crowd. But this tiny frog who was deaf didn't hear. Probably when he looked down, he thought that everybody was cheering. Because he didn't understand what they were telling. And what actually, instead of listening to these frogs around them, what he did actually, the frog was paying attention more to himself, to his own breath and to his own body. When you pay more attention to your own body and breath, your body can tell you exactly what you have to do. If you are really paying attention to your breath and the body, your body can tell you when to take a rest, when to take a break, when to take a long breath and continue. Because this frog was deaf, he was listening more to himself, to his own body and the breath, and really was able to listen to the body and follow the needs of the body, and then manage to climb the top, reach the top. So that is exactly what we can do in our life. Not to go deaf, actually, but actually start paying more attention to our own breath and the body, and listen to the message that our body is telling us. Listen to the message that our breath is telling us, using the breath as an indicator of the status of our mind. If you pay attention to your breath, you realize that you are angry. Your breath is short, very shallow. Notice that difference and know that you are angry, and better not you make any important decision when you are in that mindset. Better not you start important conversation when you are in that state. Better not to go and talk to your children when you are in that state. You are going to make things worse. You think that you are smart, but things that are coming out from your mouth is not what you intend. Because your mind is out of balance. Right? So the breath can be really important help for us to really understand and make a good decision. My mind is out of balance now. This is not the best time to do very important things in life. And then make good decision about that. And the next one, actually, breath is not only an indicator of our bodily and mental states, but very importantly, our breath is also a tool to change the bodily and mental status. This is very important. This can function two ways. One is the breath can tell us how exactly we feel in our body and mind, and then the same thing can be a tool to change that state of the mind. Because by changing the breath, you can actually change the bodily and mental conditions. That is so wonderful. That is why we really have to learn how to use our breath. First, it can tell us. Then, by changing the breath, you can introduce changes to your body and the breath. What is really happening is that whenever we encounter a threat, some kind of difficult condition, and our body kind of prepares to protect itself. When the vehicle is running towards you very fast, and your body is automatically getting ready to face that condition and save itself. So we got this ability through the process of evolution, right? Our nervous system is preparing our body, and we all know that our stress response. Whenever we encounter a threat, a danger, our sympathetic nervous system gets activated, and then we have a stress response. What we call it? Fight or flight, and sometimes freeze. Some animals freeze also. So our body is getting ready either to fight or to run away or to freeze. Or sometimes we get that state of the body also when we encounter such a danger and threat. So whole sympathetic nervous system get activated, and actually, of course, our digestion is stopped. And so many other important processes of the body is stopped to give more energy for us to run away or for us to fight back. And it is happening due to to help us to survive. So those things were really helpful when we were living among tigers and lions and and in difficult weather conditions, under storms. They were really helpful. But what has happened now? Now we don't have any more threats from tigers. Of course, we have become threat to tigers and other animals. But now what has happened, instead of tigers, we get the same kind of nervous response, same kind of mental response to social situations, not to like real threat. When we are about to have an argument, maybe when we are driving, when we see some driver is reckless, and when we are having important meeting, or when we are going to have a family, you are going to have conversation, important conversation in your family, and when another person, when you see another person who used to scold you previously, so now we get the same kind of bodily reaction, not to real threats, but sometimes our social relationships, but most of the time not really real one, the projected ones. Because we had a really bad argument with that person a while ago, and that when you go to certain place and that person is there, you remember that all that argument you had that now. So you imagine that person will start the same kind of conversation with me. I'm going to experience same kind of problem, and your body is now getting ready to either to fight or to run away. And so most of the time as human beings we have like perceived threats, not real one, perceived. And sometimes it's okay to have some preparation, but it happens as most of the time. And when that happens, our body get tense and our body get get ready to like do the reaction, but then we forget to relax completely. We carry that tense muscles for long. And not only that, there's very important functioning happening in our brain. Maybe Brother Billy will help me also to understand that. What you call amygdala attack, right? Hijack, sorry. Hijack. Amygdala hijack. So the brain is stop communication with the cognitive, the prefrontal cortex of our brain. When we have something that's that kind of threat, let's say like system wheelers coming towards you, there's no time for you to calculate the speed and make a conscious calculated decision. Really have to react instinctively. With instinct. So amygdala hijack means that you can't really plan and act. It has to be spontaneous. So it has to be something that already pre-planned in the brain. So we stop communicating with our planning side of the brain, our cognitive thinking, our decision-making thinking, and then body will, release the patterns, habitual inbuilt patterns to save ourselves. We don't have to think about it. But when these things happen in our social relationships, when amygdala is hijacked, when we are going to talk to a person, when we have important meeting, when we see a person, you are not really, thinking wisely. Your intellect is out of the way, and you act impulsively. And that is not going to help us in our social relationships. But now remember, breath. The breath is the very important savior for us. Because when these things, when the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, all these things will happen. We are not thinking straight. Our inbuilt instinctive, impulsive behavior are on the front, and everything's automatic, and we are really behaving to save our life. We're in a survival mode. We are in the survival mode, and then, of course, sometimes we are behaving that not in actual dangers, in front of actual threats, but to imagined or projected threats. And when you realize that, okay, that person is there, but actually I'm not really having that kind of threat. The one way actually we can bring our more choice more to our back, or maybe like to kind of settle our, to get our parasympathetic nervous system to back, like to give more relaxation of the body, and then remove our amygdala hijack, is actually the breath. The long, deep in-breath is one important way that we can transform our sympathetic nervous system back to our parasympathetic nervous system to tell us. Whenever you take a deep, long in-breath, it sends a message to brain. Everything is okay. Like, at least for that moment. I mean, of course, you can still continue your, conversation, whatever. But, when you take that deep breath, it kind of relaxes all other muscles, and then you can again communicate with your prefrontal cortex. You can, think quite, wisely. You can, have more cognitive, functioning in your brain. And so it's very important for us to remember whenever we are going to have important meeting. Maybe you want to give a talk, a presentation. You can have an amygdala hijack. You can have other bodily stress and tense body. And remember that when those things happen in unnecessary moments, it's okay if that thing happen. When you are really in real threat. When we are in real threat situation, somebody is throwing a stone. You need to save your life. You really push yourself. When you have maybe you happen to touch your hot stove. Of course, those, sympathetic nervous system is so helpful. But, sometimes we activate this system more than we really need it in our social interactions. Then whenever we realize that it's happening more than we really need, the best way to correct it, not really correct actually, because, we need both. The best way to return back to our normal being, particularly to, activate parasympathetic nervous system, is the breath. So we can manipulate, we can navigate our own nervous system by manipulating the breath, by changing the breath. Manipulation can be too violent. Maybe changing the breath. Changing the breath. So that is why this breath is such a tool to heal our body. So we can get back to our digest mode. We can get back to our rest mode by taking a long, deep breath. So please remember to breathe, take long breath from time to time. Train that ability, and then we can really understand that. I remember, Bhante Punaji used to call abdominal breath, right? Using the belly to breathe. Abdominal breath, your baby's breath. That is how the baby is breathing, right? We were breathing really nicely when we were babies. We actually engage our whole body to breathe. Have you observed a sleeping baby? How all the belly is rising, and not only belly, the backside, whole body is engaged, full, relaxed breathing. And engage in the whole diaphragm and breathing. And from when you're slowly growing up and up and up, and we restrict our breath to our upper part of our lungs. Actually, in a normal average person only use 1/3 of the lungs to breathe. 33% to be exact. And others we don't use. And that is why taking a long deep in breath, like using the other parts of the lungs. Sometimes, some parts of our lungs may have not received air at all for days. Right? We really have to make some conscious effort, like give some air to those, beautiful, places in the lungs. And that is not only like, physically healthy, but also mentally healthy, and then helping us to return to our parasympathetic nervous system. And of course, there's so much other benefits also when we, start to have long breaths. So it's really important to remember it from time to time. Take long, deep in breath, and also if you're having sometimes we get our heart is beating so fast. When we get excited or even anxious, fearful, our heartbeat is heartbeat is happening very fast. And there's no way that we can directly control our heartbeat. Do you know how to slow it down or increase it? No way, right? But there's a way, not directly, through the breath. If you really feel your heart is beating fast, the best way to get back to normal is to change your breath. If you start to take few long, deep in breath continuously, that will help the heart to come to normal, pattern. So there are so many ways that we can heal our body. And then, of course, when we take deep, long in breaths, actually, even brain releases good hormones, endorphins, to our body, and that is so healing. So there are so many physiological changes happening in the body moment we take deep, long in breaths. So remember that breath is a tool. Even that Vietnamese monk who is living in Paris, Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, he has said that actually our breathing is the closest thing, the only solid thing that we can take refuge in. We can use our breath as a refuge. Our refuge. This is available anytime, very close to us, and we can take refuge in your breath. We can use your breath as a refuge to relax your body, to come to a present moment. And so please keep using it, and from time to time, at least in a day, remember to take a few deep in breaths purposefully and feel the change. And particularly when you are going through some anxious moments, remember to breathe. That's the whole point. We don't remember. That is mindfulness. And you can develop it's a habit, it's a training. Whenever you are in the traffic light, and then whenever you keep watching your clock, and then you realize that you are getting late, and then thoughts can occur to you that, oh, my friend will be blaming me, or my boss will really think really bad about me. Oh no, I'm late to pick up the Bhante, and Bhante may be there and waiting for me. So when you start to having those thoughts, what else you can do? You can't fly. The only way, remember on those moments, of course, you have to find a way to shortcuts to go. You don't forget that also. But in order to remember, when you have that stress, you can have that hijack, amygdala hijack. So in order to really have a conscious mind, in those moments, particularly when you're in traffic, nothing else to do. Take a long, deep in breath. So make sure don't really breathe fumes coming from the other vehicles. But those are the good moments that we can remember to take long, deep in breaths, out of kindness to our body. We are doing so much good to our body when you take long, deep in breath. Remember to take those long, deep in breaths when you start your day early in the morning, when you have your coffee or tea, when you come back home. Have those specific moments that you purposely take some conscious effort to take long, deep in breaths, and then feel it fully, and see how much difference you can feel. And so we can really bring so much well-being to our body. So can we like really try it and see what kind of change we can feel it? Taking long, few deep in-breaths. Okay. Sometimes when we purposely take long in-breaths, actually instead of our belly is rising, because sometimes we have to give more space, our belly can be even shrinking. Don't worry about that. Let's take a few long in-breaths, but I'm going to guide you. Let us take like the pace. I'm going to count in like 4. Let us take a deep breath, like in the count of 4, and then we release it in the count of 4. And try to release as much as you can. The more you release, more space you get in your lungs to breathe in. Okay, and then we can take the breath again, the count of 4 and the count of 5, and let's see how you feel now. Okay, we can open your chest and give more space to the lungs. Okay, first do a very we can start with out breath. First release any air left in the lungs. And now take a long deep in breath, very long, slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. We release that. 1, 2, 3, 4. This time longer and deeper. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. 4. And release it. 1, 2, 3. Keep. 4. Take the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release it slowly. 2, 3, 4. One last time. Deeper and 1, 2, 3, 4. Release it slowly, gradually. 3, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I couldn't do it because I had to guide you. But how do you feel now? Do you feel different? So you can purposely use that. So that is how we can use our breath for healing. But I also want to include the other part, how we can use our breath for insight. You have that part also in the title, right? Yeah. Insight part. It's in the teachings of the Buddha, the main goal of our meditation is actually to develop insightful wisdom to our own life. Calming and experiencing calmer and a peaceful state of the mind is very important. It's a prerequisite for us to have a deeper realization of our breath. And this breath has also very important ability to teach us to have a deeper insight into our life, because breath is a process. Although we use the noun as breath, there's no breath actually. We call it the breath using a noun. The moment you use a noun, it becomes a thing. It becomes a fixed thing. But there's no breath actually. There's a breathing happening there. There's a process. So the breath is a process, and therefore it can really tell us how exactly things they are. The pattern of the breath is also the pattern of everything else. One important thing we can learn from the breath, very important insight, is that when you take your breath, eventually you have to release it. So whatever you take in, you have to send out. Can you keep some of the breath and only breathe out a little bit? So that's a good lesson. Whatever we take in, we have to let go. You will not be able to keep anything for yourself. The amount of breath you are taking in is the same amount of breath you have to send out. Nothing you take in can keep it in with you forever. That's a good lesson, right? Whatever we make it our own, whatever we gather, eventually have to let go. Otherwise, we can be really in trouble, like congestion, right? So whatever we take in has to go out. That's a very important lesson we can learn from the breath. So whenever we are losing something, whenever we are like things are breaking, going away, remember, okay, I mean, when I was born, I didn't have any of them, right? I gathered everything, and now I may have to release them, even though those things did not break down or fall apart. The moment we die, everything will automatically fall apart, right? So that's a good lesson to learn, that everything we take in has to go out. So everything we gather, everything we own, everything we make close to us have to go away. That's a part of the nature. The other important lesson we can learn, as the breath is a process, when you really closely pay attention to the breath, in the insight meditation, what we really say is that this whole process, that there is no moment in our breath that is static, that is stable, that is frozen. The breath is a process. It's like breathing in and in and in. We energize our body, bring the energy to our body, and the next moment, breathing out and out and out, we relax the body and moving away. So what we're really seeing here is actually rising, and then collapsing. In Buddhism, we call it rising and passing away. Samudaya and Vaya. So that is exactly the pattern of the universe. So if you really pay attention to the breath, we can really have a deeper insight into any phenomena in the world. Any phenomena in the world is rising, and then passing. Actually, there's no moment in anything that actually stays the same. So the whole reality of life is actually impermanence. Impermanence means, in a deeper sense, rising and passing away. So nothing actually exists in the strict sense. Either they are coming into being, or they are collapsing and going into not being. Right? And we have beautiful flowers behind us. Right? So actually, sometimes, but in between rising and passing away, we can project an idea of existence. We can say that this exists. But actually, the middle part is not reality. It's something that we project in our mind. Like this flower, we can say there's a flower here. Flower exists. We can say that, right? But if you truly pay attention to this flower, either this flower is blooming or this flower is fading away. There is only two moments this flower has. Either it is blooming or fading away. In between, we think that there's a period that flower exists. So same with our life. Either we are growing up or we are growing old. And I mean, there's no really moment that we really kind of exist in a way. I mean, every moment we are every moment we are rebuilding and collapsing, rebuilding, collapsing, rebuilding and collapsing. Every time we had to rebuild ourselves, and that is what we do all the time. We have already rebuilt it us, millions of times. Every time it collapses, we rebuild it. That is how we maintain this idea of I and self. There's a constant construction of the self, constant rebuilding. That's deeper sense. So, but when you really pay attention to the breath and seeing that pattern, rising, passing away, rising, passing away, that is the pattern of the universe. And if you really catch that, you begin to realize that actually the world is arising, passing away. And every experience is arising and passing away. That's the nature. If you can come into terms with that, life will be much easier. The complete acceptance of that fact and completely be okay with that is the part of being enlightened. So breath tells us the ultimate pattern of the universe, arising and passing away. So that is how we can use our breath for insight. So you have most important tool within you, very close. So please remember to use it. Remember to breathe long, few times a day at least. And remember to deactivate your sympathetic nervous system. Activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Your digestion will be so much easier. People have so much of stomach, gastral problem because our digestion is stopped so many times. Whenever you get tense, whenever you get stressed, digestion has to stop. And then, of course, you get so many other problems. So the more you breathe deeper, your digestion is happening so well. Your gut health is the very important part of your overall health. So remember to breathe in that way, so this digestion can happen smoothly. So then we can also use our breath for our insight. So truly, as the Thich Nhat Hanh said, breath is a refuge for us. So I hope that you will continue to use your breath as your refuge. So close, a close friend never leaves you until the last moment in your life. So make use of him and be friendly with the breath. Thank you.